Okay, I apologize. I lost part of the video. But anyway, as I was saying, fear is a seller. And that is a selling point. And that is what they're doing here with all of the COVID stuff. They're doing a selling point. They're doing the foot in the door or whatever. Fear is a huge motivator. As I was giving a demonstration in the last video where, I was discussing, like I was talking to my brother-in-law and my sister being stuck out with my nephews on the side of the road, and need to buy a better car. They've done the same thing with the cough. They have taken it, and we all have lost, by now, I'm sure a lot of people out there have lost friends and loved ones, either from it or complications from it, or they said they passed from it, which is neither here or there. The thing is, this thing has touched a lot of people's lives through 2020 and through into 2021, and it's coming back with a vengeance. Fear is a huge motivator and a huge seller. Who would ever believe, like he was saying, that people just run out and put on masks anytime they go anywhere? But now we're saying, oh, no mask, no work. Hey, no magic potion, no work. All this thing is coming in. And they never give you a break to ease up. Every time you put on the TV, it's fear, 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 fear. And if it ain't the cough fear, it's the invisible boogeyman, as some people call it. It's not invisible, it's a real thing. It's, war with Russia, war with China. All the way around us is fear, fear, fear. And the reason why they're bringing in the World War III scenarios, my opinion, I don't know. Like I said, this is just my opinion. Not financial advice, not anything. It's just my opinion. The reason why they're bringing in the foreign war stuff is because the American people are pushing back against some of the stuff going on. Not everybody, but some people are. And that is why they have to bring in the foreign war stuff. Make people think, oh man, there's a boogeyman going to come in and get us. So who's going to protect us? Well, the government's the one's going to have to protect us. Because, we're not going to fight off an invading army. Or I don't believe. I don't even think we could fight off our own army. And I wouldn't advise it. I don't advise violence in any way. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying civil disobedience. They say you can't work unless you get the magic potion or the sheep's milk. You just civilly disobey. And we're starting to see a lot of people civilly disobey. We've seen a woman down there who was, had to pay her bills, so she went to jail by opening up her beauty salon. And she was being safe. And she was showing, hey, I'm wearing a mask, blah, 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 blah. Hey, the same stuff that these people are doing, in hospitals. So why couldn't she go ahead and cut hair? It's all about a power grab, and they're using fear to sell it to you. Back to the video.
Why you will sell your house to them. And by them, I'm referring to the government, who, in my opinion, will be controlled by the global elite, most likely the World Economic Forum. So the most obvious is a market crash, like we saw during the GFC, 2009, call it, to 2012. It really peaked out in 2006. So to go over the specific numbers, let's go to this chart. It goes all the way back to 1900. It's one that I use all the time, all the way to 2010, 2012. These are housing prices adjusted for inflation. This is an index, so on the left we go from 60 up to 200. Our starting point is right at 100 in the year 1900. Flat lines goes down during the Depression, back up, World War II, flattens out, kind of goes up and down during the 70s and 80s. And then, as we know, in the late 90s going into 2000, it goes completely parabolic. The prices absolutely skyrocketed. And we know that's because the lending standards decreased, interest rates went down. We all know story. But then from 2006 to 2012, the prices came all the way back down. Where? To their historic trend line, going all the way back to 1900. And this makes sense because housing prices, at the end of the day, really should just go up with the rate of inflation, because housing prices, at the end of the day, should be tied to wages, which usually go up, although they lag slightly with the rate of inflation. So another way to think about this, and the reason this makes sense, is because home prices are tied to wages, and wages are tied to inflation. Therefore, most of the time, the housing prices should stay consistent with the rate of inflation. I know a lot of you are saying, George, well, interest rates are far lower than they were before. And yeah, I get it. But at some point in time, the interest rates have to normalize. And when they do, that will put extreme downward pressure on housing prices. Even if the rates don't normalize, at some point, we'll have to get back down to this historic trend line. Now, I believe if the rates stay this low, that we will get back down to this level, not in nominal terms, but in real terms. You see, the price of housing can go up by 5% per year, as an example. But in real terms, as far as purchasing power, the price can go down by, let's say, 10% a year if the rate of inflation is 15%. 5% up, 15% rate of inflation, therefore a 10% net loss to your purchasing power. But let's just assume for a moment that prices crash again like they did between 2006 and 2012.
Okay, hold on right here for a second. What he's talking about is a normal economy. He's a macro guy. He's super smart, super intelligent. And this is not financial advice. This is only education, entertainment purposes only, and my opinion. We don't know what's going to happen with hyperinflation. I think real estate, real commodities, even stocks, I think they're going to hyperinflate because we're seeing hyperinflation. Food prices are increasing daily. A lot of places aren't even putting out menus, real menus, because the prices on their food is going up so fast that they can't get them printed and get them on the table fast enough. They're just writing it down because their costs are going up. If you go to the grocery store, you'll see price of eggs, milk, everything's going up. Just, and that's what we're seeing. So if you listen to Patric Bet-David on Valuetainment, he gives an excellent thing. And if I can find the video, I'll put it a link in the description below. But I may not be able to find it because I had trouble finding it the last time. But he discusses what you need to buy during hyperinflation. He's saying non-reproducible assets. Land, property is a non-reproducible asset. It means they can't print no more of it. Things that will go down in hyperinflation are things that are, they can reproduce. Money printed out of thin air. Gold, real commodities, they cannot duplicate. Bitcoin, they cannot duplicate Bitcoin. Every 4 years you have a halving. So that's why it goes up every 4 years, regardless. I mean, it's going to go up every 4 years. 4 years, Bitcoin's going to be worth more than what it is today. That's why the dollar depreciates, because they're printing more. A lot of people probably understand that. I'm probably talking to the choir, preaching to the choir, as they say. But here we go. He's saying that things have to normalize. I agree. But is it soon, or is it on the other side of this whole hyperinflation dollar collapse scenario? I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows. But he's saying at some point they got to normalize. I think this is just opinion. I could be wrong. Housing prices crash tomorrow. No one knows. But Made myself dizzy. Turning my head too fast. I apologize. But at some point, he's right. We got to normalize. But this is going to go. If we are in true hyperinflation, which I believe we are, if you look at our current rate of inflation, Venezuela, if we follow the same path, Venezuela had 33 years from the time they started seeing substantial or significant inflation. I believe Warren Buffett called it substantial inflation. It's what Berkshire Hathaway is seeing right now in the 2021 shareholders meeting. You have 33 years. If we follow the same track as Venezuela, which I don't think we will, because we are a much bigger economy, much bigger country, and we are the world. Our currency is the world's currency. I'm trying to keep my head straight and focused. But so they had 33 years from the time in the 80s when they started seeing substantial inflation to the time in around 2016 or whenever it was when they hit hyperinflation. 33 years. You know, that's one for you right there for your conspiracy theorists, the 33 years. But if we're at that point now, about the same point as they was 33 years ago, we got, and we take the same timeline, we could be 33 years of watching our house prices increase every year and then see huge hyperinflation with them. Could there be some corrections along the way? Yeah, there could be some corrections along the way. I'm not saying that there won't be. But what I'm saying is, before the bottom comes crashing back down to normal, we could see huge increases in this. But I don't know. Don't follow me. Follow our channel, but don't take my advice.
Homeowners back during that time frame would have sold to the government for 100 cents on the dollar, meaning if the government offered them 100% of what they actually paid for the house. I think a large majority of the population that were homeowners, because they were upside down on their house, they had negative equity, and a lot of them were forced into foreclosure, and in some cases, even bankruptcy. So let's think this through. Going back to step number 2. The government has already got you to comply with wearing masks, social distancing, closing your business, locking yourself in your own house, and they've also conditioned you to accepting money, quote unquote, free money from the government in the form of PPP loans, stimmy checks, and additional unemployment benefits. And I know that this doesn't apply to everyone, but it applies to a good majority of Americans. So is it really a stretch to think that if we do have another crash in nominal home prices, that the majority of Americans will gladly give the keys to their house to the government in exchange for 100 cents on the dollar, especially considering the fact that they've already agreed to put that sign in their front yard. The government already has their foot through the psychological door. But I think that's an obvious scenario which may lead you to sell your house to them. Now, let's go over some of the not so obvious ways they may try to pull off their objective. And I think these next 2 strategies are just as probable, if not more probable, than the strategy they may employ if the housing market crashes back down to its historic trend line in nominal terms. Editor, let's go right to the internet to explore how they may leverage unrealized capital gains and climate change to take your property. Let's start by going over an article from Business Insider. And they state that even Janet Yellen has been talking about unrealized capital gains tax. So what is that? That means that if your house goes from $100,000 up to $500,000 in nominal price, they would tax you on the $400,000 gain, even if you didn't sell your house. So you would be liable for, let's say, 40% of the $400,000 gain. So that'd be $160,000 of tax that you would have to pay today, even though you didn't sell your house. So where are you going to come up with $160,000? Well, let's say you can't. Well, I think the government may give you an option where if you can't pay the tax, or if you don't want to pay the tax, you can simply sell to the Treasury, to Janet Yellen, to Jerome Powell, to the Fed, whomever, but you can sell for 100 cents on the dollar, and you won't have to pay the tax. So the money...
Okay, I'm going to stop him right here. I don't know that they will buy it from you, so you don't have to pay the tax. I think they could just take it. Say if you owe taxes, at the courthouse on your property, and you don't pay them, what happens to that tax? Well, you lose that house. You lose all your equity in that home and everything. And what happens is they set up a sheriff's sale, and people will come in and try to buy that house. A lot of times the mortgage owner will come in and buy that house at the sheriff's sale. What they'll do is they'll start off at he said 160,000. They'll start off right there at 160,000, and they'll start the bidding there. And the mortgage owner, lien holder, will run that up as high as he can to get it, because he wants to get that house back so that he can resell it to someone else, and you lose all your equity. In order for you to have that house, you got to get a loan from the bank. If you don't have that 160,000, you got to try to get a loan from the bank to come to this sheriff's sale and buy that. Excuse me. And whoever buys that then is responsible for paying those taxes on that house. And a lot of times they can get a $500,000 house for $200,000. And you see a lot of real estate investors do this and use this exact same scenario. So him thinking that the government will just be nice and offer you, okay, we'll just buy your house for pennies on the dollar, or 100 cents on the dollar, or whatever. I think he's taken a Pollyannish view of this. George Gammon, like I said, Robert Kiyosaki says George Gammon is one of the top 3 economic macro guys, I guess, in the world, or at least the U.S. anyway. He's way smarter than me. I'm not that guy. I'm also not Pollyannish, though. One of our farms came from a tax lien sale. So, not mine personally, but my father's. So, I know how these things kind of work. And so I think what you're going to see is them just take it and sell it at the courthouse. The only problem with that is it takes away from the goal of the government owning everything. But I don't think necessarily the government's going to own everything. I think corporations and the government, a kind of a fascist, communist, socialist, I don't know, just some kind of big fascist, communist thing is going to rear its head in this. And, I think that's how that they're going to do it. I don't think, like BlackRock. BlackRock right now is going around offering 20% over market value and buying up every house they can, every apartment complex that they can. And they're doing that. There may be some others doing it too. And they're being able to go out and pay 20% above market price because the Fed's writing them a blank check. And they're writing them a blank check on your and our tax dollars. Not necessarily our tax dollars, but our wages. If you understand how things work, the Fed prints money. The government doesn't spend taxpayer money. That taxpayer money goes to pay interest on the debt that the government owes the Fed. They don't really pay your debt. You don't really pave roads with taxpayer money. They borrow that money to make the road, and then they take our income taxes and they pay the debt down. And that's how money works. And that's why there's always a deficit, and there's always going to be one. It don't work like a lot of people think, or like we've been lied to and told that it works. So what I see happening here is I see them partnering with some kind of government-backed corporation, a fascist way, and them being able to buy your house at like a sale. And I don't know if public will be open to it or not, because they want to take the land away from the public people. So back to the video.
Or the dollars become a liability to the Fed, and they get your house as an asset on their balance sheet. And if you don't have the $160,000 to pay the tax, this option becomes very, very attractive. So number one, they can get you to sell your house to them by the market crashing and you having negative equity. Number two, they could do it if they implement what they've been talking about a lot on the left, and a lot of these politicians, and a lot of...
Okay, I want to stop right there and go back to this, since he's bringing this up. We've seen what happened in Europe, okay? What happened in Europe with the COVID, and how that they came in and you signed away all your property rights, and they just and they just wiped all your debts clean. That's what we can see here. And I'm not disagreeing with George. He's way smarter than I am. He's a great guy. George, if you see this video, please come on Your Wealth Plan podcast. I'd love to have you on there. We need to, I would just love to have you as a guest on my show. Also love to have your programs and stuff on Saibhreas TV once we get Saibhreas Tv Roku up and running. Appreciate you. Love your work. I'm not disagreeing with George here. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we've seen the pattern that they've already used. They come in, they say, okay, you owe this X amount of dollars. If you'll sign away your property rights and agree to never own anything else, waive all future property rights, we will write off all of your debt. And that's what I seeing here with the unrealized capital gains tax. What they'll do is they'll come in, they'll say, okay, we'll just take your house and we'll write you, you'll just sign I owe you nothing. Instead of an I owe you, you're signing I owe you nothing. And that's what they'll give you. They'll wipe all your debts clean and take your house. And you'll agree not to own any future property or anything else by getting them to do that. And that's the way I see this going. And we'll get into talking about what's going on with and how this right here, unrealized capital gains tax, plays into the new Biden death taxes. Real video.
elite, and that's setting up an unrealized capital gains tax. But the third possible strategy, I think, is the most likely. That's climate change. To explore that further, let's go to a recent article from CNBC. Retrofitting homes could be vital if governments want to hit aggressive targets. So key points: in an ideal world, all resident spaces would use low carbon, sustainable, and energy efficient technology. The reality is different, however. A lot of housing stock is decades, even centuries old. They go on to point out that the challenge is considerable. If we take a closer look at the UK, a 2019 report from the Committee on Climate Change, they described homes as not fit for the future. It added, going forward, the UK's 29 million existing homes would have to be made low carbon, low energy, and resilient to climate change. Well, in order to make all the housing stock in the United States and the UK low carbon, low energy, and resilient to climate change, it would take a staggering amount of money per house. Well, let's just assume for a moment they made this mandatory. Remember, in 2020, they locked you in your own house to save lives. Well, why would they force you to retrofit your house, even though it cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in the future, in an effort to save humanity? So if you don't have that type of money, what would you do? Well, I think, again, the government would come in and say, hey, don't worry about it. If you don't have the $200,000 needed to go ahead and make your house green, well, then we'll go ahead and buy it from you for 100 cents on the dollar, and you can go ahead and rent it from us for less than you are paying on your mortgage. So forcing people to retrofit their property for climate change could be a way to get the majority of Americans to sell them their home, even if housing prices don't go down, or even if taxes don't go up.
Okay, I'm going to pause him right here. Once again, think the world of George Gammon. I love his stuff. I've learned a tremendous amount of stuff from George Gammon. But we're seeing this happen right now already in 2 states, California and New York. Now, I don't have any friends in California. I don't have any friends in New York that I'm aware of. So I don't know how to say, hey, this is exactly what's going on. I have no proof that this is exactly going on. But a while back, there was a report, and if I can find it, I'll leave it in the description below. But there was a report that Newsom and Cuomo signed these things in saying that all commercial real estate property had to meet this carbon thing here, had to meet these emission rates. And if they didn't, the government was just going to take the property. And basically, it's just going to fine them, the property or whatever. But they had to get them up there. They had to get them. And it was making a huge impact on commercial real estate developers. Probably not the huge ones like BlackRock or some of these, but guys like me, mom and pop guys, just trying to make their way and live the American dream. This has a significant impact on. Once again, rumor has they was just taking those properties, finding those guys that couldn't do it by a certain date, or just taking the properties. I think a lot of them was just forced into selling. I don't know, at a time when commercial real estate has been really hit hard. It has, because, they say online, but it's just I don't really know what it is. I like to go shop. I don't like to shop online. I guess there's people out there that prefer to shop online. My boys, they will not, millennials, they will not go to a store hardly and pick out anything. They want to buy it all online. And how are you going to find a pair of pants that fit right? Because nothing is standardized sizes anymore. I may say they are, they might be close, but nothing fits the same. But anyway, back to this. This is hitting already in America, in California, and in New York, with commercial real estate. So, and they said, once they got that done, they were coming after regular real estate, or residential real estate.
So I'd like to point out that the World Economic Forum's main initiative is climate change. Therefore, leveraging the fear of climate change, I think, is the most probable strategy they will use to take your property. Of course, for the greater good. So we now know what their vision is for 2030 and beyond. We also know that psychologically, they have set up society, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally, to be far more receptive to saying yes to the central planners, the government, and the politicians.
Remember what I said. Leading questions. The more you say yes, the more apt you are to buy into the product. Hey Bobby, how you like that paint? Yeah, I like it. Hey Bobby, how you like those wheels? They really shine, don't they, man? Yeah, I like them. Hey Bobby, what do you think about those tires? You like those brand new Michelin tires? They'll take your family safely wherever you want to go, won't they? You probably got another 50, 60,000 miles out of those brand new Michelin tires. Yeah, I like them. Hey Bobby, how you like the stereo system and that? You can listen to your favorite tunes with going down the road right off your phone. All that Bluetooth technology built right in, my friend. How you like that? Yeah, I like it. The more yeses you get, the more yeses you're going to get
in the future. We've also walked through a few scenarios and strategies they may use to take So now you understand the possibilities. Again, there are no certainties, there are only possibilities. I'm not saying that this is going to play out. This is not a prediction. I'm merely going over possibilities, incentives, motives, and explain to you, the viewer, the global elite's vision for the future. So all of us can make better financial decisions for our futures, protect our property, and maybe even more importantly, protect our freedom from those global elite that want to take it all away from us. For more content that'll help you.
Okay, one thing that he did not go over, and that is Biden's death taxes. See, Biden right now has passed this thing. I don't know when it's going to be implemented, but upon passing, my family would have to come up with 47.7% of the property's value, or whatever I own. Say I own this house outright, whatever I own. Upon death, my wife and kids would have to come up with 47.7% taxes to pay back to the government upon my death. Whatever they hold in the company, whatever, they would have to come up with that amount of money. Say, if you had $1 million, to make it simple, you'd have to pay $470,070 whatever, $700 or whatever to the federal government. They would have to have that kind of cash on hand, $470,000. How many people is going to be able to do that? And if you can't do that, the government just comes in and takes that money, or takes that property away from them. And basically you get, like they did in Europe, you get an IOU, or not an IOU, you get you agree not to own any more property, you agree to waive all your future rights to own property, and we'll wipe your slate clean. And that's basically what they've done over there, and that's what they're setting us up for here. What they'll do is they'll just come in, they'll take your property, and they'll say, okay, we'll just take this, and then you won't owe anything to us because your property is worth more than that. If you take into play the unrealized capital gains that he was talking about, adding to the death taxes or inheritance tax, you're looking at paying 80%. So now, a depreciation, whatever the depreciation is in your property, it could be up as much as 80% on what you have. So therefore, say if you had a property worth $1 million, you would have to pay the government $800,000. So you'd lose all your equity that you have built in this property to the government. And that's how, and if you ain't got the $800,000, they just take the property. The rich will have ways around this because the rich protect themselves with insurance. They can get Lloyd's of London or huge insurance policies, and they can afford to pay the premiums on those huge insurance policies. And when a new member of the family is born, they go right out and they take out enough insurance policies on that child to, for whatever he'll spend over his lifetime. And then when he dies, all that money goes back into the trust or the fund or the company or however they're set up. And you and I can't afford to do that. I wish I could afford to go out and take out $15 million life insurance on all of my kids and my grandkids, and that way, and myself, and that way when I died, all that money would be there to protect all of our property that has been built up since my great grandpa worked and slaved his butt off, and my grandpa and my dad and all of us all together have worked to build. But I don't have that kind of cash to do that. Not disposable cash anyway. And most Americans are in that spot. And that's why your wealth plan is so important. It's not about getting rich and being like the elites. It's about being able to survive in what's coming for us. It's about freedom and being able to protect your legacy and your heritage. There's a lot more to it than just oh man, I made $1 million in the stock market or in Bitcoin or whatever. It's way more than that. There's way more at risk. There's way more at stake here, far more than what people realize. And we really, really need to build a network. And that's what Your Wealth Plan podcast is all about. And that's what Saibhreas TV is all about on Roku. I want to invite George Gammon, share his content on there when you get the channel up and running. I want to invite George Gammon on Your Wealth Plan podcast because people really need help. People need to put together their own plan. My plan won't work for you. Your plan won't work for me. We have different backgrounds, different scenarios, different things. But being able to learn from different people and putting together a network or a team of individuals coming together and sharing information may help out a lot of people in the long run. There's scary times coming for us all. Really is. If you look at Venezuela and you see the food riots and everything happening down there, that stuff could be coming for us too at any time. Especially anybody who lived through watching what happened during COVID, or the cough, I should say. I probably shouldn't say that word because I'll probably get triggered and this video will get killed. But that's another reason for building the television channel, to try to share information on, so our freedom of speech is not squelched. But sure would like to invite George Gammon on the podcast. George, if you see this, please come on the podcast. We'd love to have you. This video is no way to take away from what George is saying. It's great information. I'll share a link to it below. George Gammon, a great guy. I've learned a lot about the economy and macroeconomics from him, from watching his YouTube videos. And I ask that you subscribe to his channel because it is a great channel and you'll learn a lot. Once again, this is things that could possibly happen. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but history tends to repeat itself. And the same people that was ruling the world, World War II, are ruling it again. And we really need to take precautions and do what's best for our family. Why work our entire lives and slave away, just have it all stolen from us? And I'm not saying civil disobedience on that. I'm just saying learn ways to do. If you're a content creator on YouTube, you wrote a book, or any authors, business owners, anybody in sales, anybody out there that's built businesses, running businesses, contact me on Your Wealth Plan Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. I'll get you on the podcast. We'd like to talk to you. Content creators, making videos, YouTubers, get in touch with me. When we get the YouTube channel, when we get the Roku channel up and running, we would love to share your content on our channel. We want to help as many people as we can. This isn't just about making a lot of money for ourselves. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn by up here commenting or my take on George Gammon's video. I'm highly support him, highly support and respect him. And I'm not taking anything away from adding my commentary to it either, because I think there was just some things that needed to be added to it from my perspective, things I've seen. No two people's ever going to think exactly alike. And I wasn't at all trying to take away from George's video at all. He's way, way smarter than I am. But I just was wanting to add in some things that we have seen in our own play out, here and there. But anyway, once again, thank you. Please like and subscribe. And that's it for today. God bless.